Hi guys, and welcome back to another DrAce video, and today we're going to be playing Ride 4, and today is going to be weekly challenge number 43, and we're going to be here in Cadwell Park on board the Suzuki GSXR 600. So here we are in Cadwell Park, the track that made my top 10 list of tracks within Ride 4 because it's absolutely awesome, and this combination of bike and track is pretty darn good. But in today's video, we are going to be helping you achieve the best possible time here in Cadwell Park, which is of course the goals lap times which we're aiming for, the lap time of 1:35.1. Now I'm going to be doing a lap or two just to get reacquainted with Cadwell. It's been a while since I actually played Ride 4, and then I will break down everything that you need to know about this wonderful circuit. I will confess to you that these laps weren't my best. They really weren't. Unfortunately, I did come back after a 10-hour shift and immediately record this one straight after work, and I was bloody well tired when I did this one, but we still got the goal lap time, and you guys can get the goal lap time as well if I can do it when I'm tired. So into Mansfield, difficult corner to make, and there's be certain points of this track you are going to struggle with. Mansfield probably one of them, turn 10 here, and then for the next corner as well, this combination, this uphill section, this just flip-flop section from flicking it to left to the right is difficult, and it will probably take a bit of time to get used to. You have to be very careful with the wheelies, and also be very careful with how much acceleration you're applying in some of these corners. Just quickly to mention as well, my electronic settings for this one is engine brake on 2, and anti-wheeling and TCS are both turned off, so they are at 0. And that is going to be the introduction done. The first lap is now complete, so let's get on with the full breakdown. So as you've seen, the first lap was good enough for the goal lap time, so let's break it down. So into the left-hander, you can drop it down to around 120 miles an hour. Just drop it down ever so slightly, brake just a little bit, and downshift. Be very careful where you position the motorcycle, because sometimes when you go into that first corner, you can lose the front rather easily, or the rear might spin round on you. So just be very, very careful upon entry into turn 1. But now up into the right hand of this difficult braking marker. Brake here just before that second braking marker. I would advise to use all front brake and a little bit of rear brake. If you need to go full rear brake, then do it, but just make sure that when you're holding the rear brake, you let go in a prompt fashion, because otherwise you will end up just spinning the rear round and then it can get way out of shape. And speaking of out of shape, I absolutely butchered the gooseneck there. I really did. So be very careful upon that section, but of course on the next lap I will discuss that in further detail. Now approaching turn 10, brake nice and early and position yourself for the apex of both corners. Super difficult corner to get right, I don't expect you to get it right first time, and then brake here at that last braking marker there. This is a weird corner because sometimes you don't actually move the bike to complete lean angle, it's just maybe moving the analog stick just a little bit over enough just to make the corner. So if I could put it in the sense of like a pushing and a force, you would use only 50% of the actual analog stick pushed to the left and then 50% pushed to the right. If you push fully, the chances are you're going to push too far and you're going to end up tipping the bike over. I hope that made sense. If not, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll explain it in further detail. So the second lap has been completed. That was a 1:28.595, pretty decent so far. But as we now go into the left-hander, you'll see in the bottom right corner of your screen how much front brake was being applied there. Not much, it's just a little bit, maybe 50%, 35% roughly around, just to slow the motorcycle down enough so you can get into that first corner without touching the rumble strip and also without carrying too much speed, so you may end up crashing. Next corner coming up now, as mentioned previously, brake just as you get near enough to that second braking marker. Use a little bit of rear brake just to help slow the motorcycle down, and then begin to move your way forward into the Chris curve for the right-hander. Now position yourself here where the thick black lines are on the track, move it over to the right-hand side, aim for this apex here, and the second you're in the middle of that right apex on that first right-hander, flip the bike over. You really don't need to wait. Just do it straight away and you'll find that you'll make it much smoother. It does feel a bit early sometimes and you think, oh, I'll never make this, or I'm going to go right over the rumble strip, but the chances are you probably won't, and you'll end up making that corner regardless. So now onto the left hand side, bear in mind what I said earlier about the analog stick, and as you go up the jump there, stay in the middle or to the right. Don't go to the left, because if you go to the left, you'll find that when you accelerate over the mountain, you actually go onto the grass, because there is a slight kink in the road there that's going to push you to the right hand side. So stay to the right if you can, because if you go to the right, it actually positions you in the middle. But now into the barn corner for turn 18. I did run it wide on the previous lap, so we will improve the lap time here, but unfortunately it's not going to be by much, but it's still an improvement. So turn 1, once again, going to mention the same thing, 120 plus miles an hour, getting onto the left hand side, a little bit of brake. You can toy with that in the sense of you can either just reduce acceleration, either or, whatever you find better for you. If you want to use a little bit of front brake, whether you want to use a little bit of rear brake, it's entirely up to you. I actually wouldn't advise the rear brake because I think you may end up spinning the rear and going around yourself, so be very careful on that one. So braking, the same point as mentioned earlier, turn 4 for park. I did go a little bit wide here, but we lost time, but we're also not that far away from the Ghost. Very tight to the apex here for turn 5 for the Chris curve, and then position yourself here for the gooseneck, going right hand side, going onto the apex, practically running that knee straight across the rumble strip. That's how close you need to be to then get the flick on the left hand side. That's the best way to see on the rumble strip as well, how to work out when you need to flip the motorcycle over. But now into turn 9, I did figure out that apparently you can cut the corner there ever so slightly. It's a bit like the Suzuki corner for 100R. Be very careful with that one as well, though, because I think sometimes it will invalidate the lap, but I guess this instance I kind of got lucky. Well, there's me also demonstrating that if you go left in the sense of going up that mountain part for the jump, you do go very close to the grass there, so just be very, very careful if you do decide to go on the left-hand side. I implore you to go on the right as you go up the jump there for the mountain section. But now onto the right-hand side, we are going to complete this lap, and it will be another improvement. Hopefully it's going to be a 127 across the line. It's going to be a 128, 108. So frustratingly enough, it's not into the next increment of seconds, but we'll still get there. We've got plenty of time in this one. And I won't lie to you guys, I actually had a bit of a tough time with this one. I couldn't seem to be consistent, and I couldn't really focus on it as much as I would have wanted to. I put that down to just being tired, but honestly, it is kind of frustrating when this happens, so don't be too hard on yourself, accept fate, maybe come back to it later if you are having a bit of difficulties, because Cadwell Park is a very tough track. It's a very thin and very narrow track, and even myself going off wide a couple of times, even on the previous lap I touched the green as well going onto the grass, so just be very careful and don't be too hard on yourself, guys. So into gooseneck as mentioned, going to the right hand side, then flicking it across to the left. It's actually more stable going into that corner than you think. It's actually quite grippy, so just have a bit more confidence going into that part if you do tend to struggle going into that particular part for the gooseneck. As we're now going to the left hand side, made a bit of a hash of that one, I won't lie to you, and the Ghost is getting ahead of me, and I got into a little bit of a rhythm. A negative rhythm I usually would mention is that I started to fight the Ghost, which I very rarely do. I'm not a fan of the Ghost, and it's probably a reason why I don't like the Ghost, because I do tend to focus on it a little bit too much sometimes. But now going here for the whole bends, it's a very difficult part of the track for me to tell you where to brake. It's more of a feeling and a sensation sort of thing, and I can't give you an absolute definitive place where to brake. It's going to be one of those where you're going to have to try it out for yourself, feel it, and just have an experience of trying it out and just seeing where you want to brake. For me, I don't think I did it the same at any point, maybe similar, but I don't think I hit the exact braking mark that I wanted to hit every single lap. So going into Charles there, or just before Charles actually, did almost go onto the rumble strip there, or actually onto the grass, and I had to give it a little bit of front brake. If you are on a full lean angle like that, just be very careful that you don't hit too much front brake. And speaking of the brakes, I did actually change the brake settings to aggressive rather than the modular softer braking, and I also did the same for the acceleration. So if you think that's going to help you, give it a try, but I have to warn you, be very careful with the front brake after you change it to aggressive, because the bike is going to be a lot more powerful on the front end, so just be very, very careful if you're going to be braking quite late, or if you've already got used to the other brakes and you swap it over, you may have to readjust to it, so just be very careful. So going into turn 10 and turn 9, I'm going to wince a little bit because I got stuck right onto the grass there, and unfortunately I got into this rut, but I also thought, you know what, usually I would have cancelled the lap by now, and usually I would have restarted it and tried to just do it properly, because I don't like being messy, and I don't like showing videos that make it look messy and a bit out of shape and out of control. I like to be in control and smooth, but unfortunately these particular laps in Cadwell didn't really get that feeling right. Of course, you've got a 600cc bike with a lot of power, and of course stock tyres, so it's not really helping you, but it's still a good combination of track and bike. And the craziest thing is that lap that I had those mistakes on were actually my fastest. So another point I wanted to make, and another reason I've left this in the video, is because just because it doesn't look like this is going to be your absolute kick-ass lap, don't abandon it just because of that. It's important to continue to push forwards and to experience the lap, because you are gaining valuable data every single time. The muscle memory is improving every single time. So don't freak out if you do something bad. focus on it and just continue to push forward. That is the best advice I could possibly give you out of every single video I've ever done. Just because it looks messy, just because it looks a bit awkward, doesn't mean it's not fast, and doesn't mean it might not be the lap that can get you a world record, for example. So now going into Mansfield, a little bit out of shape, but we do gain a little bit of time by bringing on the acceleration a little bit earlier, and now braking very firm for turn 9 and turn 10, using the front brake, using the rear brake, cutting in the corner ever so slightly, and now onto the left-hand side as we go for turn 11, nice and tight to the left, keep it in nice and tight to the right, do not go over the rumble strip there, by the way. That is very, very important because you will just collapse straight away. Keep it nice and tight for the left, right-handers, left again for the hall bends, left again. Be very careful not to get too much out of shape as we now go into the hairpin. Straighten the motorcycle up here and make sure you don't touch the grass there. I almost did it myself there, just ever so slightly touching the white line and a bit of the gravel. But now bring on the acceleration and that will conclude another lap here in Cadwell. So still no improvement since the 127.878 as we now go into the left-hander for Coppice. Look how out of shape we got there. That's an example of how risky it can be going into Coppice, because it does really wobble on you if you're carrying too much speed. So we do actually get ahead of the Ghost here, and we might have a chance of improving the lap as we now go into the left-hander for just this little kink, and then for the right-hander for Park. So braking very firmly there, braking quite late actually, getting it right on that second braking marker, and now nice and tight to the apex, just braking it ever so slightly there to get it nice and tight to the apex for Chris Curve. Keep it on the right hand side here and just brake ever so slightly, trail braking into the corner there for the gooseneck, and we're actually ahead by a nice little amount here. So braking now into Mansfield, keeping it well away from the outside of the track. We are still ahead of the Ghosts, and let's see how we fare going into 9 and 10. We mustn't boss that. I didn't like how we entered in that corner. I probably should have moved into a little bit more to the right hand side, but unfortunately we didn't. We're up by 2.5 tenths of a second. I've run it deep ever so slightly, and that is going to ruin a bit of time there, but we managed to be very careful on the wheelie. Not as good as the Ghost was. Keep it tight to hall bends for 13, 14, and then for 15 as well. We are losing time to the Ghost as we get a little bit out of its shape there as we tried to straighten the motorcycle up, and unfortunately I did make a mess going into the hairpin. That's where the racing the Ghost came in, so unfortunately it will not be an improvement on this particular lap. But we still persevered until the end, and that is going to be my final lap time of today's video. So on screen right now, those are my 8 lap times here in the motorcycle circuit of Cadwell Park. I hope these lap times can help give you an indication of where you need to be when you're doing your particular laps to either beat my lap time or at least to get the gold lap time. So even though my laps were messy and I really wasn't proud of my performance today, we still managed to get the top spot of the leaderboard. Not sure how long it'll last, probably already been beaten, but regardless, I rather enjoyed that nonetheless. So guys, I hope this video has helped you. Let me know in the comment section down below if it has helped you, and if you do need any more assistance, let me know because I'm happy to help, and I'm pretty much always lurking around in the comment section down below. But upon that note guys, thank you very much for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Hit a like button if you did, and also consider subscribing as well, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and ciao for now. Oh hi, didn't quite see you there. Good to see you're still here. If this video didn't quite set your appetite, then why not watch some more DrAce content by clicking the video shown on screen now. Furthermore, if you would like to follow me on social media, you can do so now with the links down in the description. Consider subscribing so you don't miss a single DrAce video.